Let's talk about the Epstein teens.
The files have been released.
Tons and tons of photos in this. That's really what is the bulk of what's released. Many more pictures showing Jeffrey Epstein and his lifestyle, including his former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell. Also, former President Bill Clinton is in a number of these photographs. He's traveling with Ghislaine Maxwell in one of these pictures. They appear to be in a foreign country. There's another photograph of them in a swimming pool. And then there are another several photos of the former president with women whose faces are redacted.
We will move next week in the House Oversight Committee markup to hold former President Clinton in contempt of Congress.
Contempt proceedings against a former president. Now, Bill Clinton was scheduled to sit down with the House Oversight Committee as part of its Jeffrey Epstein investigation.
JEJE VIBE, JEJE VIBE, JEJE VIBE.
It's JEJE VIBE. It's a vibe.
You know it's JEJE VIBE.
Oh, JEJE.
If you're new to the channel, what are you waiting for? Hit the like and subscribe. You know I got my amazing queen with me.
Thanks, my boo, the amazing nose.
So Louis and Gabriel, if you're new to the channel, like I said, do what you're supposed to do before we get into this episode. Let's talk about the Epstein teens.
The files have been released.
Epstein files released. Now, I had a little hesitancy on that word because it's only part. The DOJ releasing a mass dump of heavily redacted documents. And I want to just emphasize that point. By heavily redacted, I mean a lot of pages that look like this and this and this and this and this. And that's all I was going to do to the printer to make the point. Okay, there's a lot more of them.
You know, there was a deadline when the law was signed by Baba the Top. He signed it, and it was supposed to hit the streets, the internet street or wherever.
Justice Department has finally released some of the highly anticipated Epstein files. More than 300,000 pages of documents related to the late convicted sex offender were made public. They include photos, flight logs, grand jury testimony, and a lot of heavy redactions. Among the photos is this one of pop superstar Michael Jackson with Epstein, and this dinner photo showing Mick Jagger and former President Bill Clinton together.
We're supposed to be seeing the whole files dropping from the air.
But it did not, and it's blank, just like we mentioned it in our episode that we have on it. We told you that they're not going to release it.
We told you
that it's going to be blank.
Be a redaction galore. Redaction.
But if you think this means it's now case closed, think again. The DOJ was under orders by law to release all the Epstein files. And even though the DOJ released 300,000 files, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said there are at least a few 100,000 more that have still not been released. Blanche says the DOJ needs more time to make redactions to protect victims. He says the rest of the files will be released on a rolling basis over the next few weeks. Some lawmakers say that violates the law that was signed by President Trump.
Everything was so black. Over 100 and something pages were all black. Like, what are we doing?
The Department of Justice disclosure category. We've seen a redacted masseuse list with more than 250 names, all redacted. We've also found at least one of the grand jury documents in there from the United States versus Epstein. That is key. We have not gone through that document yet, but that is certainly something we will be looking through. There are tons and tons of photos in this. That's really what is the bulk of what's released. Many more pictures showing Jeffrey Epstein and his lifestyle, including his former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell. Also, former President Bill Clinton is in a number of these photographs. He's traveling with Ghislaine Maxwell in one of these pictures. They appear to be in a foreign country. There's another photograph of them in a swimming pool. And then there are another several photos of the former president with women whose faces are redacted. Now, Former President Clinton is not accused of any wrongdoing in relation to this Jeffrey Epstein relationship that he had. And these are undated photos, so we don't know when these pictures were taken of the former president. A lot of what we have seen, two separate images, include sexual innuendo or nudity. And I just want to note, too, that these photographs that we've seen do not seem to include any photos that we've seen so far of President Trump.
Some public informations were redacted.
Everything was so black.
The government is breaking the law with the Epstein files. They were supposed to release all of them. They did not. They were supposed to explain redactions. They did not. They were supposed to have limited redactions that did not allow them to redact on the basis of embarrassment or for politically exposed people. They did that. They redacted actual people who were investigated in the Epstein case, not just the victims. And this is in violation of the bipartisan law that Donald Trump signed only months ago. It's a law called the Epstein Transparency Act, and I've excerpted a few bits of it for you, where specifically they could not redact all the files. They had to release all of them by a certain day, which they missed. They didn't hit that deadline. They said they needed more time to review. But of the stuff we've already gotten, they've redacted more than they were supposed to. The law says that they can't redact on the basis of embarrassment, reputational harm, political sensitivity. Basically, they can't just say like, oh, we don't like that guy's name is coming out. They only can redact on the basis of like national security or if it's a victim. And even if they do redact, they have to explain why they did so. They have to give a summary of redactions made, including the legal basis. And they did not do that either. Not only did they make redactions that clearly in the context are not victims at all, but rather possible perpetrators. They're redacting possible perpetrators, but they also haven't explained anything they did redact. And on the DOJ website, you can see that they are just not interested in following the law here because they say they're going to redact personal information pertaining to victims, which is according to the law. Then they say other private individuals, but that again is not what the law says. The law makes no provision for that. So the DOJ has sort of taken the law that was passed and kind of just like reinterpreted it. And even still, they're not complying with it because, as I said, they were supposed to release everything by a certain day. Here's the status of that. So far, 2.4% of the total pages that are under review have been released. They say they have, and I'm not even kidding, 5 million pages of documents related to Epstein. They also say they have 2 million documents under review. So far, they've released 12,000. And a lot of those were entirely redacted with no explanation, right? Like against the law, no explanation of this.
You guys were able to see from the whole black redaction? Let us know.
Some were able to do a little bit of command trickery now on the internet to be able to unblank the pages that were redacted, which was a shitty job by the DOJ. If you're saying you're redacting, you're just blanking with a...
So obviously this is just one PDF file of many, right? I mean, there's a big dump of court records here. I mean, this is just one file from one case. There's dozens of cases and each one has probably dozens of PDF files associated with it. So if you're trying to unredact everything that's listed here and you want to try and mine that data for important details, you're going to want some kind of automation like this Python script that somebody made for this very purpose. So PDF Plumber and PYMU PDF, those libraries are what actually do the heavy lifting here. And you could also, like, if you just open up this PDF, you can search for the text that you want, since again, it's not actually redacted. Financial Strategy Group LTD is what's being censored here poorly, so I could just search for, if I can actually spell financial strategy, and you can see it's already highlighting it right there, right? Financial Strategy Group. So that's another way that you could search for things. Of course, you could grep it, Control F in your favorite PDF app of choice, because again, the text here is not actually redacted. It's just highlighted with the color black.
Digital blank.
That was crazy though. Like some people also like recording yourself doing those things. I don't like it. It's not a good thing. Yeah, you can But anyway,
why you letting out this little trickery of some things, of some little bit of smartness out to the public now?
Like, you don't do that.
Yeah, you should have kept it to you and let's have fun with it.
Like, you don't do that. You just do what you do and do what you do.
And let's have fun with it. And now it's beginning to look like the public people now are busy trying to teach the DOJ what to do.
Like, what are we doing?
And people are saying that the Epstein files can be read if you just copy and paste them into a Word doc. Whoever blacked out these documents used Adobe Acrobat, and apparently it's really easy to see what the redactions are. This doesn't work for every document. It only works for the documents where whoever redacted them was an idiot and didn't know what they were doing. So we'll go to this document and I'll open it in a new window. You can see it pops up in Adobe Acrobat. And if we scroll down to anything that was blacked out, all you have to do is copy it and then open a Word doc and then paste it in. And that is the redacted amount right there. From another Epstein's personal accounts with another different bank for which another different bank, for some reason, that was blacked out. We can look at the next line. Payments from this account totaling almost, so this is 111. Payments from this account totaling almost $60,000 were transferred by wire to young women, mostly at foreign beneficiary banks. Why would they black out those dollar amounts? I don't know. But you can literally read the redactions in the Epstein files, some of the documents, if you just copy and paste it into a Word doc. That's how stupid the people are working for Trump, and those are the people that Trump put in charge of this. So, I'm sure there are people out there who have downloaded everything, and now they have to go through each document, copying and pasting to see what was blacked out. It's not every document, but this is pretty hysterical.
But anyway, it's all blacked out. But we saw some photos, though.
We did.
Some new photos.
A newly released batch of photos of Jeffrey Epstein, more proof of the convicted sex offender's connections with several powerful men.
I think anything that we release is significant. I think people should be able to make judgments on their own as to what they see in these photos. These pictures, some of these photos are really disturbing.
The images from Epstein's estate are part of 95,000 undated photos handed over to the House Oversight Committee and released by Democrats. They do not appear to show any illegal activity. One picture features Epstein with a younger President Trump and an unidentified woman. The president also appears in other pictures without Epstein, but with women whose identities are being protected by the committee. The president has not been charged with any crimes linked to Epstein, and he has denied any wrongdoing, responding last night in the Oval Office.
There were new Epstein photos released today showing you and also Bill Clinton, Steve Bannon. What were your reaction to those new photos that were released
Well,
today?
I haven't seen it, but I mean, everybody knew this man. He was all over Palm Beach. He has photos with everybody. I mean, almost there are hundreds and hundreds of people that have photos with him, so that's no big deal. I know nothing about it.
The committee released a signed photo of former President Bill Clinton with Epstein and his partner Ghislaine Maxwell. Clinton has also repeatedly denied any wrongdoing. One of the photos of Epstein with Steve Bannon, a longtime Trump ally, show the two men posing for a mirror selfie. And in another of the two men, there's a picture on a desk that appears to show a woman in a bathtub. The committee also releasing this photo of Epstein in a bathtub. Bannon did not respond to a request for comment.
New photos.
We saw how the, I guess the island looks.
Island. An island. But that place looks hideous.
It does. Very hideous.
Like, who goes,
too hideous.
Who goes here?
Hanging a young girl torso in, in I guess in the staircase, high ceiling as some sort of art.
Oh my god! Oh my
too hideous.
Oh my god! Crazy.
These images were released by the Department of Justice in a trove of photographs, court documents, phone logs, and notes, all contained in the Epstein files. Other big names: President Donald Trump, legendary newsman Walter Cronkite, the Duchess of York Sarah Ferguson, and her former husband Prince Andrew, Virgin Airlines Richard Branson. There were also images of massage rooms, unidentified women, Epstein's home, and his erotic artwork.
Crazy.
There were a bunch of servers. There were a bunch of hardware drive.
Oh my God. This was like an operation going on.
Huge operation. There were surveillance room with several TVs now. Someone watching behind the scene of the action now.
Crazy.
Recorded.
Crazy.
The DOJ doesn't say, though, where these photos were taken, dates, or their context. Several of the photos and documents have been heavily redacted, upsetting some of Epstein's survivors.
Just put out the files and stop redacting names that don't need to be redacted.
She wants transparency and only Epstein's victims' names to be redacted. Several 100,000 documents have been released today and more are expected in the coming weeks.
This is another level of
creepiness.
Man. Yo, we don't know what's happening with this. They say the pictures tell 1,000 words. So we don't know the exact thing that's going on in these pictures.
There were some women faces,
redacted.
child thin faces covered.
So there was
children.
a lot that was redacted. And you guys can make sense of what you saw by yourself.
Everybody is talking about what the DOJ won't release, but nobody's talking about what's actually in the thousands of pages they did release. And what's in there is worse than you think. Now, according to a BBC article, co-conspirators being tracked down, Prince Andrew asking for inappropriate friends, and a 14-year-old girl being introduced to Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Covering the releases, the files include photos, videos, investigative documents, emails, between FBI personnel, court filings, and internal communications. And buried beneath all of that is some genuinely disturbing material that explains exactly how Epstein's operation worked. First, let's talk about the co-conspirators. According to the BBC, among the documents released are emails from July of 2019, just days after Epstein's arrest, between FBI personnel, lays out the status of tracking these people down. Now, according to that email, 3 had been located in Florida and served with grand jury subpoenas. 1 in Boston, 1 in New York City, and 1 in Connecticut were also located and served. But 4 of the 10 were still outstanding. The email specifically mentions, quote, a wealthy businessman in Ohio, and notes that, quote, the remaining 3 are currently out of pocket. Here's what's interesting about that email. Most of the names are redacted, and the document shows 2 names that weren't blacked out, Maxwell and Les Wexner. Now, Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's accomplice, who's now in prison, and Les Wexner, the former Victoria's Secret CEO, who had a well-documented friendship with Epstein. Now, according to the BBC, Les Wexner's lawyers responded to this, and they essentially said that he was neither a co-conspirator or a target. But the other thing is that we don't know who the other names are. They're all redacted. And the law said the DOJ could only redact victim identities and information under active criminal investigation. So are these 8 other people under investigation? We don't know.
The releasing of the file is supposed to show transparency now. Why the redaction?
Crazy. They call it transparency.
But what's crazy, and like what I can't wrap my head around, is my entire life I was led to believe Congress had some power or were able to do things. They made laws and you had to follow those laws, right? That's really important, to follow the laws Congress passes. But maybe not. We're seeing that the DOJ is really testing that here, because theoretically, who would enforce the laws that Congress is, making? Probably the DOJ, the Department of Justice. What if the Department of Justice isn't following the laws? Who is going to get them in trouble? Because Pam Bondi is just flagrantly disregarding and reinterpreting some of the laws here. And there is a challenge to this in court. And the DOJ basically wrote in court that, well, actually, even if we did violate this, maybe there's no cause of action here. We aren't responsible for any of this, because there was a petition of the court to appoint something called an independent monitor and special master. Specifically, this was to force them to comply with the law. This was written by a Republican and Democrat, and it says, put simply, the DOJ cannot be trusted with making mandatory disclosures under the Act And essentially, they have to put someone independent in charge of this whole event. And the Department of Justice wrote in that they don't believe there's a cause of action here by the Epstein Transparency Act. So even if there is a consequence, if a statute does not specify a consequence for noncompliance with statutory timing provisions, the federal courts will not in the ordinary course impose their own coercive sanction. So what exactly can they get in trouble with if they don't comply with this? If they just redact whatever they want, they don't provide a summary of what they redact people they shouldn't have redacted, who is going to get them in trouble? I mean, basically they're arguing to a court. They're like, well, they didn't say what's going to happen to us if we didn't comply with this. So that's kind of on them. It's actually amazing to watch the flagrantness in which they do this. It's so brazen.
But this whole thing has not been transparent. We can't see through the darkness.
Too dark.
It's too dark. What's transparent about being dark? Like, you're supposed to see.
Literally and figuratively.
But this is not transparent at all. Like, this is like we're blocking your
we're blocking your view.
Opaque.
Opaque.
This is opaque.
Opaque.
One of the Republicans who actually wrote this whole appointment of an independent monitor, he talks on breaking points about, what their goal is. And I just think it's worth listening to.
Pam Bondi is violating the law. She missed the December 19th deadline. She missed the deadline 15 days after that, where they had to justify redactions and give Congress a list of politicians who were involved in the Epstein files. So they've missed 2 deadlines. But I'm concerned more about what they're redacting and what they're withholding than I am about these deadlines. And that's why we've asked this judge to appoint a special master. It's might makes right. They're doing this. They're disobeying the law because I think they're trying to test and see if there's any way it can be enforced.
That's exactly what they're doing. They're like half complying with the law, but specifically not with the parts that actually matter. And then they're telling the court, well, there's no cause of action to force us to actually do it. And who ultimately is going to stop them? Who's going to prosecute the government? The government won't. I mean, what are we talking about here? And what's interesting about this is that clearly not everybody is happy about this. This has actually been hugely humiliating for people who basically ran on the whole, we're going to release the Epstein files.
This is crazy. So guys, what you guys think about the Epstein things? Do you guys think this is a cover up there? Do you guys think
it's not a question already? There? It looks like the DOJ is now being incapable of doing the right thing. If you're saying you're Department of Justice and you are now busy doing the opposite, trying to cover up and continuously cover up, even though now to release those files and be transparent with it, and you still chose to miss the deadline. Blank out everything, and not just blank out everything. Now we're hearing that there are million files yet to be released.
Oh my God.
There's also the story about what is not in these files or what is heavily redacted, because that is also sparking a nerve. When it comes to what's in these files, we've seen dozens of new photos we haven't seen before of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell with very high profile people, celebrities, people like Mick Jagger and Michael Jackson, like you showed, also like British royalty and actors. All of that we sort of knew was happening. I want to highlight specifically 2 for the public interest, and that is President Clinton and President Trump in these files. We've got new images now, some showing President Clinton in a pool with Ghislaine Maxwell and a person who is redacted. Now, we know some of the redactions are because people are underage or because people are victims. We don't know anything about these people in these specific photos other than they're redacted, but this is getting a lot of attention here. Then President Trump, you see pictures of what look like a drawer with several photos in them of President Trump before he was president, younger version of himself, and several women there, as you see, some of them not wearing a whole lot of clothing. President Trump is also referenced several times in flight logs, and in some cases, even with his former wife, Marla, and his daughter, Tiffany, who would have been a child at the time, and a nanny traveling along with Epstein that were in these files. Beyond that, there is a lot of material in here that is just uncomfortable sadly, as we might expect. There's pornographic material, magazines, that type of thing, sex toys, images like that. There are also a lot of references to massages. There is a Massage for Dummies book that was highlighted here that our team found. There was also a letter handwritten talking about a younger girl who was an artist, and she took pictures of her two sisters, 16 years old and 12 years old, that Jeffrey Epstein apparently stole, according to this note, and then threatened to burn the girl's house down if she told that Jeffrey Epstein had stolen these pictures and had given them to clients, as it says in the note. So it's just a lot of really disturbing things. Congressman Ro Khanna, who was one of the driving forces behind releasing these photos, has been in touch with the Epstein victims, the survivors, for quite some time. He talked about what they want to see out of these documents and what they want to come out of this release.
From the survivors who I've talked to, they are appreciative that finally they're being heard, they're being seen, and documents are coming out. But what they care most about is that the documents come out that expose the rich and powerful men who either raped them, abused them, or were at these sex parties watching them be abused.
What you guys think that is going on here?
The Department of Justice is now the Department of Injustice.
God.
However, this violates the law that Trump signed last month, which made today the deadline to release all of them.
Are we protecting the survivors, or are we protecting these elite men that need to be put out there? And people need to know these are predators that are in the files.
Gloria Allred, who has represented 27 of Epstein's survivors, is upset the files released so far have yet to show evidence of Epstein's accomplices.
We've seen photos of other powerful men that were associated with Jeffrey Epstein. What we haven't seen yet is evidence of any crimes that any of these powerful men, including Trump, have committed crimes against women or, crimes against children. That is what is most important to the survivors.
Drop a comment and let us know. Is this the Department of Injustice? Is this transparent enough?
I have to give a special mention to the Clintons, who are trying to do their own little weaseling out of the law maneuver. Because I don't know if you guys remember, the Clintons issued this whole statement that, we don't need protections from the Epstein files, just let everything out. And everyone was like, yeah, sure, that's fine, we don't care. Literally lock them all up, whoever's involved. And they said as much. Basically, they said, we need no such protection. And then Bill Clinton came out and was like, yeah, actually, we're not going to comply with that subpoena you guys issued, because Congress was like, hey, you got to come testify. And they were like, no, we said we don't need protection, but actually we're not gonna show up. And that was also a bipartisan thing, by the way, subpoenaing the Clintons.
I think everyone knows by now Bill Clinton did not show up. And I think it's important to note that this subpoena was voted on in a bipartisan manner by this committee. This wasn't something that I just issued as chairman of the committee. This was voted on by the entire committee in a unanimous vote of the House Oversight Committee to subpoena former President Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Now, Hillary Clinton's supposed to show up. We'll see what happens there. But with respect to the former president, he did not show up.
And so they might hold Clinton in contempt.
From the letter that Bill and Hillary Clinton sent to Comer directly, they lay out exactly why they are not planning to appear for their depositions. And this is after months of back and forth, Anna, between the Clintons' legal attorneys and the Oversight Committee, where the Clintons have maintained that these subpoenas are not valid, that they are willing to provide written testimony, and that the committee has even granted this option of written testimony to at least 7 of the other witnesses that they've subpoenaed in this investigation. So why not grant them to the Clintons here? And in this letter that you mentioned that Bill and Hillary Clinton wrote to Comer, I want to read for you a piece of it that just shows the stakes that both the former president and First Lady and Secretary of State understand here. They say, quote, Every person has to decide when they have seen or had enough and are ready to fight for this country, its principles, and its people, no matter the consequences. For us, now is that time.
Drop a comment and let us know. It's Epstein Stains. We'll give you guys updated with the updates. It's JEJE VIBE. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. You know I'm with my queen, and we out of here. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Bye.